kitchen. It's good to have y'all on my set with me. I am fixing to fix a Butterbean stew. This is a old dish for me to be cooking right now. My mom used to cook it whenever I was little. She used to, back in the day, you know, we had a little farm. She'd take and kill the chickens that Daddy had out in the yard, and we had a small garden that they grew butter beans, and you know, we were able to just get all that. We were more self-sufficient than what we are today, and we were able to make an economical meal. So this isn't only going to be good, it's going to be economical. And I want to let y'all know this is going to also be the base of a gumbo, which is called a roux. Is something that I'm going to have to be cooking first. But before I cook that, you want to season up your meat so it can kind of be marinating while you're getting everything else cooking. So I've got 5 thighs in here, and I've got 2 breasts. 2 teaspoons of salt, about a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, about a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm going to want to, my hands are clean. You're going to want to stir this up. What I do, I always brown my chicken before I put it inside my gravy, before I put it inside a gumbo or a stew, because it just gives it more flavor. Wash your hands, and I have to cut this up ahead of time before I start my roux, because once I get my roux done, I'm gonna have to put my onions inside my roux, and it starts cooking then. It's a cooking process. It's almost a caramelization process, because that roux is gonna be really, really hot. So I'm gonna cut some onions. This is 1 large onion. And this particular dish, I want to let y'all know that this is an old recipe. You don't hardly hear anybody talking about this anymore, but I know this, my family still cooks it. Okay, now I'm going to put this in a bowl. It looks like a lot of onions, but I tell you, onions is flavor. Onions is flavor. If you don't like onions, as far as an onion goes, you need to put something to replace it. Some onion powder, something. 1/4 cup of bell pepper. You can have a green bell pepper, whatever color you want, it doesn't matter. I just so happen to have a red one. I've been basically cooking since I've been probably 11. As soon as Mama could trust me enough to let me have the stove. And she was pretty protective, so I'm gonna go ahead and pre-cut these onions also, so they'll be ready to put inside the stew once it's done. The only difference between a stew and a gumbo is your stew is very thick. Some people like gumbos thin, and some people like them a cross between a stew and being thin. Personally, I like gumbo that has a little bit of a body to it, so it's gonna be a little thicker than some people's gumbos. And I'm fixing to show y'all how to make a roux, old-fashioned roux from the stove. A lot of times I put my roux and I make it in the microwave or even in the oven. But I'm going to give y'all a lesson on how to do it on the stove top. I know it's hard to believe you can make a roux in the microwave, but it's so much easier than making it on top of the stove. And you just got to make sure that there aren't any hot spots in it or anything to where it'll burn. But next time I make a gumbo, since I'm showing you basically how to make a roux on the stove, I'll make it in the microwave to show you how easy it is, and we'll do a seafood gumbo. So let's get started with the roux. And best thing to go with, if you want to use a Magnolite pot, you can, but I'm going to use a black iron pot. 1.5 cups of flour in here, and here's a cup of oil. turn your fire on high. I don't measure anything, and I'm having to measure this so that I can make sure y'all, you know, will be able to do it too. Okay, this right here is not thick enough. Now, with my roux, what I gotta do, now this is 1.5 cups of flour that I put in here already. But I can tell you right now, this is too thin. I'm fixing to show you what consistency it needs to look like before you get started. Put another 1/2 cup of flour. So that makes 2 cups of flour that I have in there. Okay, that's not enough neither. So this is 2.5 cups of flour. Now, that's gonna be enough. 2.5 cups of flour and 1 cup of oil. Now this is more like it. This is how I like it. You see, like that. This is something that's gonna take a while, and you don't want to get away from it. You want to continue to stir and stir. But I will show you the stages, the different stages that you need to look for whenever I get to a blonder roux, a darker roux, you know, and we're going to get to where it's almost chocolate. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but you see the bottom of it, how it's getting brown. This is where you got to watch it, because the browner it gets, the faster it gets browner. And I'm telling you, you can burn it. And I really need to watch myself, because I'm used to making it in the microwave now. This is the first time I've made it on the stove in a long time, so we're going to turn this down a little bit. It's a blonde color. This is a blonde roux, and you can use it for bechamel sauce. You can take it right now. You can put some cream in it, some cheese in it. And that's perfect for that. Just to thin it out just a little bit, I put a couple of tablespoons of oil. And you see the consistency of that? That's good. Now, as you can tell, it's getting darker. This is the hardest part of making a gumbo or a stew. Okay. You see the color of it now? It's kind of like a caramel. Turned my fire down or off for a minute because it started getting brown a little bit too fast. So you can do that with yours too. If you're working on an electric stove, I feel sorry for you, because it's going to be really hard to make a roux on an electric stove. You're going to have to literally take your pot off and put it on, and take it off and put it on. Gas is the best. I like to get a little darker, but for the sake of taking a chance and burning it, this is where you're going to put in your onions. Your onions are going to cook in here. And not only are they going to cook, they're going to get your roux. Your roux's going to get a little bit darker since you put the onions in. And I do this stage for about 5 minutes. Let my onions caramelize in there. I'm going to show y'all something that I do that makes it a little bit easier to break down the roux in your liquid. Now, I'm going to put chicken broth in here, and this is what I'm going to use today. You can use any kind of chicken broth. Whoa! This box of chicken broth is 48 ounces. And put about, I'm going to say, maybe a cup of water. And I'm just doing that right now because I'm going to get this to where it breaks down in here. Let this cook down. I normally let it cook down for about an hour. Maybe some people don't wait that long. But I like to make sure the flour taste of it is going to be all gone and it's going to be all incorporated before you put in any meat or anything like that. At this time, you can put your bell peppers in. if you want bell peppers. If you don't want bell peppers, leave them out. Fixing to do a double thing here, as this is getting thicker. And at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and put in my seasoning. About a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, a couple of teaspoons of salt, and you stir this around in there real well. I'm going to pour about another half a gallon of water. And let this get good and incorporated, and this has got to cook down. Now, my chicken, yo, be careful with you. Okay, you see guys, I want it about that caramelized, you know. It just adds to the flavor of your stew. Guys, yeah. You want that to boil down some because you want it to get a little thicker. I've got a 24-ounce bag of lima beans or butter beans, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to put, in this much, I'm going to put about 3/4 of this bag in here. And you're going to put in your chicken. And you're going to let it boil or let it cook. This has been cooking for probably about an hour, and everything is cooked. The stew is thick, it's cooked. The lima beans are cooked. Now, I made some rice, which I made on the stove. I don't use a rice cooker. One of these days I'll show y'all how simple that is. That is so good. Talk about nostalgic. That's something I ate whenever I was a little girl, and I still cook it every once in a while. Delicious. If y'all liked this video, I would ask y'all to subscribe, and I appreciate every one of y'all that are watching it, and I try to comment on all my little notes that y'all send me, and I just appreciate it, and I'm getting around to y'all. This is all new to me, but I'm learning, and I thank y'all. From MeMaw's kitchen to your kitchen. I'll see you guys next time.